I mean, I can hear you.
You
I can
can,
hear you. I don't
you
know
can
if
hear me.
everyone can hear you, but
Nobody
I
else
can
can
hear
hear me.
you.
Hello, and welcome to Sometimes Video Games. You can hear me now. Um, I'm Adam, and welcome to the podcast. This is a weekly podcast we do. Sometimes talk about nonsense for a bit. I'm joined, as per usual, by the lovely Charlie Walsh. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. International break football means I'm calm. Usually
Hmm.
I'm in a very stressed, not very stressed, but usually we do these and it's like a match is either just finished or just starting or some other nonsense. Whereas
Hmm.
this week, international break. So I'm very calm right now. I'm pretty zen. It's
Exam.
nice. I quite
How
like it.
how is it affecting you? Are you like, oh hey guys, I can sleep? I mean, you told me before you were actually able to sleep.
Yes, although that was mainly from the jab. But I think do you know what? Most football fans despise the international. Well, not most, but there's a significant portion who despise the international break because
Hmm.
they care about their club and only their club, and none of this. England not interested. Whatever
Hmm.
country not interested. Whereas I quite like international football. I think it's pretty cool. So I quite like international breaks anyway because I don't have to make videos about it, so I can be calm on that side.
That's good.
And then also I get to just watch some weird football, like the Czech Republic are facing Kuwait. I'll watch that. I mean, I didn't, but it happened, and
You
But
could have watched it and you could have
I could
enjoyed
have
it.
watched it, and that's the important bit.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's affected me positively. I'm enjoying my life right now, Adam.
Oh my god, that's a change. Um,
Yeah, it's rare. It's rare.
also joined by guest Cristina Alexander, who's been on the show before. How are you, Christina?
I am doing excellent.
Excellent. Oh my god, that's that's the thing.
Mm.
What's so why so chipper?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was writing an article for Giant Freaking Robot,
Hmm.
which is my third freelance gig under my belt, and I finally quit my soul sucking news station job last month.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
How does it feel to be free?
It feels so liberating, like not having to work like so many hours on the weekends and during the nighttime. I mean, although I still kind of do that
Mm.
with my work on the gamer, Gamepur, and giant freaking robot, because on the latter one it kind of takes me a little bit longer to write things than on the other ones, because their word count requirement is like a little bit higher, like 500 words. So
Really?
there's like a lot of research involved.
500
But
words is
at
a
the
lot.
very least, I'm not like working till like 11 o'clock at night like I used to.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That's good. That is good. I mean, you can. I guess the joys of, and I suppose all three of us are sort of guilty of this in some degree, for being like freelancers or writers or, in Charlie's case, like video editors and stuff. Is that we are basically having to work around the clock anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, as
In
much as you do
order
get that free
to
time.
make like twice, if not three times more money than we did in our regular jobs.
I mean, for you maybe, I don't know about you, me and Charlie.
Yeah, I used to, yeah, I was an accountant and then I quit that to do video. So my income has significantly dropped, but
The same with
I'm
me. I
happy.
used to work for the
I'm
government,
happy.
and then I was like, I guess I'll go be a student for a few years.
So what we're saying, Christina, is that you're the sensible, smart one out of us, as you're next to two complete idiots. But it's one can dream, one
One
can
can
dream.
dream. I often I'm not gonna say I miss the government job, but I often miss the idea of that, because like when I was there, I hated I don't say I hated every minute of it. I was good at the job, but I hated what I had to do.
Yeah.
Um, and it made me incredibly depressed, like more so than I normally am every day. Um, and leaving that, I felt a massive relief and like, oh, I can breathe, you know. But now I'm kind of like, you know what? It's fine now. I was doing. Maybe I feel that after every job I've been in a little bit is like, I hate this job. I'm here, and then I look back and go, it wasn't so bad. I could do that.
I think that's
Mhm.
quite natural. I think it's quite like I know. So my mum has just quit her job,
Hmm.
and so her final day is the 31st of December. Um,
Nice.
and she's in that stage right now of being like, oh my god, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. Which I know it will come. She's at some point she's gonna find work, but like for now,
Yeah.
she's in that just like joyous stage of of freedom. Yeah, which is a lovely stage to be in. In fact, maybe I'll get a normal job and then quit it just so I can experience it once more. You know, I haven't
Just go
felt it.
out. Go get a job in Tesco. I know there are millions of Tesco's near you.
There are a
Yeah, so
lot.
you get a job in Tesco, and then like in a week's time, like, I quit. Quit.
Sorry, boss man, I'm leaving, and then have a great week as I appreciate the freedom again
Mm.
before quickly coming back down to earth with the realization of London rent.
True. I guess the problem, like, I am very lucky in that I have people I can, I guess, rely on for those sort of things, but also like rents up here are so much cheaper than they are down there. I know rent in America. I don't know whether it's expensive for you guys, but for an outsider looking in, I see the rent prices and I go, holy fuck, that's insane.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, worries me because, being a freelancer, I
Hmm.
still live with my parents, and like there are days where I just like try to like make some sort of plan to move out of my parents' house, but I mean that doesn't really happen.
No, it's difficult. I see. I'm not entirely certain about like American wages, but I know that I think the standard American wage is higher than the standard English wage, but also the rent is it's so high. Like I've seen like apartments for like $2,000 or something, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, you wouldn't even get that in London. Like, well, you would get that in London. You can get them for $1 million in London, but like the same degree is like I could get a whole house for 300.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, our current on this one bedroom flat we live in, our current rent is if you is 1.4k pounds a month.
Hmm.
And that's just the rent. That doesn't include like any of the bills, any gas, electric, anything like that. It's not included.
Hmm.
And in dollars, that works out to just over 1.8.
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
it just makes me think that I mean the cost of living in Florida is like it's just as astronomical
Hmm.
as it is in California and New York. And California, I went there last weekend to go to Napa Valley for my boyfriend's parents' anniversary.
Ooh.
And like on the last day there, we were driving around Tiburon, which is in the Bay Area, kind of close to San Francisco. And we were both like, Jesus Christ, it must be so expensive to live here. And I'm like, it's like I just want to move. I feel like, I mean, I kind of want to move to California at some point in my lifetime, just for the sake of like, connecting with other
Hmm.
gaming journalists,
A lot of stuff's there, isn't it? A lot of stuff is there.
especially because, IGN is stationed there.
Hmm.
And I'm I'm like, good Lord, what profession do I have to switch to be able to afford living in a place like this?
Hmm. I mean, this brings up an interesting topic of I guess game journalism pay. It always sticks in my mind that I remember asking because there was a big thing on Twitter when everyone started discussing how much they were being paid in America. Um, no, I don't think a lot of UK writers were discussing it all that much, but a lot of American writers were. And I asked Jonathan Holmes, who was previously the editor-in-chief of Destructoid, the website, sort of how much money he was making. He didn't give an exact figure, but he did say that he had to work as editor-in-chief and have a second job in order to support his family at the time. And I'm just sort of sat there like, holy hell, an editor-in-chief job needs to be paying enough for you to live off, right?
Yeah.
I just find
And
that
I thought
absolutely
editors
absurd.
get paid more than staff writers.
They do. And to be fair, he did mention that when he became editor-in-chief, he took a pay cut so that he could pay the staff writers more, which is, it's an amazing thing for him to do. But then it does kind of, I guess it hurts him a little bit as well, not being able to support his family 100% without having two jobs. But yeah, they're supposed to get paid more, and even then they're like, well, I don't have enough to live off to support everything. And there were a lot of writers that I was speaking to who were like, I do, 70 odd articles a month and I get paid less than minimum wage. And I was like, oh shit. It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the whole. It's one of those things where gaming journalism in general is probably just not paid anywhere near as much as it should be.
It's not.
Like I remember that conversation you were talking about on Twitter in general that everyone was having about just how much people were getting paid and not being surprised, but not being surprised personally because I sort of understood it was that way, but just seeing the numbers starkly put in front of you is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And I know it's something I've tried to explain to like my girlfriend before, because obviously like I like the dream is to work for a games pub for in the gaming press, but doing videos as opposed to the writing side. But just explaining it to her and being like, look, I'm not. This is not. It's not money
I
in
am
this.
never going to get paid a lot of money.
This is not a smart thing to do financially.
Sure.
And it's just because like there were some UK people who like spoke about it. Like I remember Chris Pratt was one of them, for example, who like listed off his pay. And his pay at Eurogamer, for example, was pretty good. To use this specific example, I don't need to. This isn't to disparage any of the publications involved at all, but like when like he listed off his pay from when he started at Videogamer, then to going through to Eurogamer, then to now where he does he's funded on Patreon doing People Make Games, and like and it says a lot that I was surprised at how well he got paid at Eurogamer. And that says a lot about the situation where I was like, oh, he got like an actual wage there. Because I'm so used to thinking there's like zero money in it that it's almost surprising when someone is getting paid to some extent.
I mean, it works at all levels as well. So like we started, let's say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You and I started 10 years ago.
Thanks for just depressing me. I
I
appreciate
know.
that. That is true, but yeah.
and I worked for nothing for like throughout those 10 years basically, to the point where like I only last year found a website that would pay me to do the stuff. And they were asking for a lot of work and very little money, but I'll be fair, like they were only a very small website and they were very much like, okay, we're going to pay people to do some work because we believe in paying people for work, but this is the amount we can pay. Which I respect, because I worked for another website that I'm not going to name that could pay people money but did not specific or paid specific people money and then worked on a volunteer wage. In fact, fuck, I can name them if you want, but it's not a problem. But like, yeah, they were like, everyone here is a volunteer. We're getting in advertising. Like, you're a volunteer until we get enough advertising to give you money, and then we're going to pay as a freelancer, but as low as possible, while also doing weird staff giveaways for people who wrote the best article to get a free Switch or something.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
I was like, and then me getting this other company, it was like they had less followers on Twitter than I did. Personally, they were like really small, and they were like, "Hey, we'll pay you. Like, we don't have a lot of money, but we will pay you." It's just that I respect that so much more than hey, if you write an article, you can be entered into a prize draw to win a Switch, maybe. It's shocking.
That's just crazy.
I've never been in a position, and we've just been paid from Twitch. Like our first ever payout from Twitch has just happened, and that's $100, which, I mean, to be fair, is less money than I've earned through video games throughout the 10 years that I've been writing for video games, but it's not that much less. Yeah, and it is depressing because at university I did a bit of music journalism as well, and I do write music journalism stuff in my spare time, and I have got a job writing music reviews at the moment that I'm waiting payment for. And the fact that this guy approached me and he goes, "I will pay you to write a review for the website," it's another world.
Yeah, for someone to approach you to say, "Hey, I am going to give you money for your work." It feels so foreign. It feels so foreign.
It's so unknown. I don't know whether you've had the same issues, Christina. I don't know what your journey. Didn't you work for Twinfinite before when they?
Yes. But before that, I was a volunteer journalist for Sega Nerds, which for legal reasons changed to Megavisions, where most of the articles I would write were about Sonic, because at that time Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces were the only games that were coming out.
Sure.
And I did not get paid for any of the stuff that I wrote. And then I freelanced a bit for Keen Gamer. They didn't pay me much either. No. And then when I signed on to Twinfinite, I wrote there for like a year and a half, and they only paid me one time for that feature about Team Sonic Racing, which got like 63,000 views, but they only paid me $30 for it.
That's ridiculous. That's terrible. I remember being blackmailed to not black. Well, I'd say blackmailed is very strong, but the website I was at before knew I was extremely excited for Bug Snacks when it was coming out, and they were like, "We'll give you the review for Bug Snacks if you review this porn game."
What?
That's wild.
It's just like, I guess I'll review it. Like, they get like codes for all sorts of stuff, and they were like, "Well, we need someone to review this. If you review this, I know you're excited for Bug Snacks. We'll give you the code for Bug Snacks if you review this." I was like, "Sure, yeah, fuck it."
That is really stupid.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't have much to say about that shit, to be fair. It was basically the thing, like, that's kind of why I just sort of decided, nah, I can't be bothered with that. Especially when, to be fair, the website that did want to pay me was called Guideful Guides, and they would, I think it's called Guideful Guides or something like that, but they were really, really small, and they were like, "Hey, like, basically just write guides, don't write any, there's no news or anything like that. It was just a guides work." And it was good. Like, you learn a lot there as well, because they're basically pushing SEO and stuff. So, like, I think even now, like, if you search certain like keywords about Persona 4, for example, one of my guides will pop up from that website because they're very on SEO brand. So even if you just search Persona 4 and my name, it'll come up immediately. I don't know. Sorry, but yeah, it's I don't know. Video games journalism, and I mentioned music journalism as well. Like, to be fair, music journalism doesn't pay much either. I remember my lecturer for the music journalism course worked for Metal Hammer, which is quite a big metal music magazine in the UK, I don't know if you get Metal Hammer in America or not, but it's quite big in the UK. I'd say like the second biggest rock music magazine in the UK, maybe. And he had to basically have a second and third job as a lecturer. He was doing screenwriting as a lecturer as well as music journalism, and they were cancelling the music journalism course.
What's potentially even worse and even wilder there is that the teaching roles also weren't paying enough.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know whether it was just like he was like a screenwriting lecturer, and they went, "Hey, you do music journalism. Do you want to do this music journalism thing?" Or whether or not, and he said yeah, or whether or not it was like, "Look, neither of these, nothing's paying enough for me." I don't know. I didn't exactly have a big talk with him about money, but he did say specifically like, "This is a passion job. You get in this if you're passionate about music." And games is exactly the same. You don't get into it if you're not into games. Which I think this topic comes up all the time, doesn't it? The game journalists being bought. It's just being talked about on Twitter as like a couple of days ago as well. Like the game journalists are being paid to make reviews good or whatever.
Yes. That's an insane idea that comes up every so often when people decide that it is happening despite the fact it never has or doesn't or hasn't properly significantly to any sort of extent.
Comes up weekly alongside Dark Souls difficulty modes.
Circular conversations, like just unnecessary conversations that happen all of the time.
It's a good what do you think of conversations that happen all the time, Christina? Do you see them? What's your favorite one in video games?
Let's see. My favorite video game discourse
That's the one.
is that's the right vocabulary to use.
It is.
My favorite is basically like any controversy that comes out of like certain video games that have been released. Like the Pokemon, like Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It doesn't come out until like next Friday, and yet somehow the game got leaked with some of the audio incomplete.
Yes. It's a mess. Pokemon discourse is a mess in general.
And when I saw this, I was like, oh my god. Like, and the problem is that I never played a Pokemon Diamond or Pokemon Pearl, like even in middle school, because I did not have the Nintendo DS at the time. So I wouldn't necessarily know like how the music was like when those games came out compared to how the music would be with the CGI remakes. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah, I get you. I don't have a comparison there either. I have played them, but I don't remember much about them. Like at all, which is pretty bad, I think, for for me. Although I tend to do that when I'm not enjoying something. I blank it from my memory. I'm sure that's like a therapist's dream there. Oh, you wipe it from memory, do you? Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Also, like, this isn't necessarily a leak, but Sega, they filed a trademark for the new Sonic game, and the title was revealed to be, thank God, Sonic Frontiers, which in my mind and all the other in the minds of other Sonic fans is a much better title than Sonic Rangers.
Yeah, I was wondering what I forgot what it was called before, but Sonic Rangers reminds me of the Pokemon Ranger game. and I don't really know what that's about, but it was on the DS, and you had to like draw circles around Pokemon, and that's the whole gameplay there. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't sound. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, Frontiers definitely sounds better than Rangers, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what either of them
because I don't
means.
think Sonic Team called it Sonic Rangers to begin with.
Hmm.
I mean, it was a working title, sure, but it wasn't gonna. They don't know if it was gonna be an official title, and with the with the trademark with the trademark revealing like the official title, we're thinking, Sonic Team thought the exact same thing that the fans did, that Sonic Rangers sounds so stupid, and that says something.
Hmm.
That's saying something in terms of, you know, like Sonic Team saying, "Oh, we're not going to please Sonic fans all the time."
I like. I don't know. I know you're a big Sonic fan, and my history with Sonic is. I mean, I'm with Sonic Team specifically. I'm very jaded about whatever it is that they put out. Like I'm interested to a degree because Sonic is my childhood and stuff like that. And I loved Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania is probably one of my favorite games of all time. But whenever Sonic Team say they're making a Sonic game, I'm always very cynical because I know
With the quality of the final product.
particularly so, yeah. Not even necessarily like in terms of bugs and stuff, even though I know that's been an issue before with like Sonic Boom or Sonic 06. But even like just the what the story is going to be like or what the gameplay is going to be like from second to second. I know there are plenty of people that still enjoy, for example, like Sonic Forces, but I find it very difficult to wrap my head around any of what's going on in Sonic Forces in terms of like enjoying it, you know.
Yeah, and as far as leaks go, like I was getting notifications from the Sonic Rangers subreddit.
Mm.
Like one of them said, like one of those notifications had a leak about the plot of the game in which Sonic meets some cyber ghost girl,
Oh,
and I'm just like, uh are you positively sure that that's the main plot of the game? So
oh.
I just kind of like put that in the back burner and kind of forgot about it. And another
As you
another
should.
leak from the same subreddit, like was playing like the theme song of the game of Sonic Frontiers, and I was like, uh, I'm not sure that this is a legitimate song, and it might be stolen from like something else, someone else.
Mm.
So I put that in like the back burner
Sure.
because as a journalist, I don't want to like
I mean, rumors
report
and
on.
hearsay is yeah, it's just rumors at this point, right?
Right.
I agree. I agree. Like, you can't report on rumors and hearsay. You've got to have some sort of evidence there for it to be um
Terrible.
yeah, for it to be relevant and credible. You got to be like, well, you can't be like, oh, hey, this is what some people are saying on Reddit, you know. Like, hey, this is what, this is, so, you need evidence essentially.
Yeah, and Sonic Frontiers doesn't come out for another year. And knowing Sonic Team, they're probably going to schedule its release for like sometime around Thanksgiving.
Or really, is that typically when Sonic games are released?
It's it's kind of a pattern that I picked up. Like there are some Sonic games that release in like the beginning of the year, and
Mm.
others that release towards the tail end of it.
Mm.
Like mainline Sonic games, for example, here's what I noticed. Um, Sonic Forces release November 7th, 2017,
Hmm.
right? And Sonic Lost World came out. I mean, it was supposed to come out November 2nd or 3rd of 2013, but it got moved up to October 29th.
Okay.
Now, and Sonic Colors, which came like 3 years before, came out November 15th or 16th of 2010.
Hmm.
And so on.
Sure. So it tends to be. I guess it's the thing with like holiday titles as well. I know, like for example, Pokemon games always release in November, like early mid-November, which is what the. I think it's like next week, isn't it? November, or the end of next week. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's next week. Is the Pokemon game that's coming out. Like they typically are yearly every November.
Correction. Sonic Colors released November 16th of 2010.
Mm.
And then Sonic Unleashed, I believe that one came out in the middle of November also in 2008.
Hmm. Fair enough.
If memory serves me right.
I think it might just be the holiday season thing. Like I know that
Yeah.
a lot of games target November.
Yeah, Sonic Heroes was an exception to the rule because it came out on December 30th, 2003 in
Jesus.
Japan, but in the US it came out January 4th, 2004.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you think, Charlie? Sonic delays?
I mean, my stance on Sonic delays is the same as everyone else.
I mean,
they're
two separate comics, aren't two
well,
separate
yeah,
comics.
but I mean, it's the same as every game, which is just delay everything as long as possible until it's actually good. Because like when we're talking about like this idea of like these conversations that just circularly happen, the one thing I just cannot stand this like, oh, this game's graphics are so bad. This conversation,
Sure,
and we've got
yeah.
it again with GTA at the moment, and obviously
Oh, the
the
definitive
GTA
edition thing, yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here acting like the GTA remakes are the best looking things in the world. That's
No,
far from it.
of course.
But for example,
I mean, they're PS2 games, to be fair.
they are. I wouldn't have remade them in that way, but they are. But I think like the stuff like the rain. Have you seen the rain thing? Oof,
No.
oof.
I saw a picture of this dude's hand that was really long.
Yeah, but this is what it is. It's like there's this like obsession over the like minutia of graphics that just like drives me up the
To be
wall.
fair, there is a slight difference between these graphics are bad and hey, why is this dude's hand really long?
Here's the thing. There isn't, and I'll tell you why there isn't.
Okay.
Because that's not what it's there for. It's
Sure.
just there for the bants, right? So, like for example, with the Pez thing, when Pez came out, a new one came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, look how bad it looks." They're like pulling up the minutiae of graphics and facial expressions and, and animations and all this stuff, and I'm like, "You're all missing the point of why this is bad. This is bad because it plays horrendously." Like this is no different to how it's looked for a while, but everyone only looks at it in such a like, such a such a specific broad stroke when they're looking directly at a thing that it just comes out in this way, and it doesn't need to at all. And it's the only reason people do it is because it is funny on Twitter.
I guess
there's no actual like, but it continues in this snowballs
like
in this thing,
a
and
game can look bad and that be a valid criticism, though.
Of course it can, but that's not what's going on.
That is
and this is what's driving me up the wall. Is like we keep having these like stupid conversations about, again, like people going, look how bad Pez is, by showing a picture of Ronaldo doing a funny face. And like that is fair. Like I'm not sitting here saying it's the Toy Story of video games graphically. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is if you play those games, the problem is the gameplay, not what it looks like. But if you look at the conversation, everyone goes, he's pulling a funny face. and it is purely for the humor of the situation on Twitter, which is fair enough, whatever. But it just drives me up the wall because it's not a conversation. It's just a topic on Twitter, and everyone just goes, and it's happening again with this thing where it's like with the GTA remix, where it's like people are having this conversation about what specific screenshots look like, and it's like, okay, is that really where we're at?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
like,
I mean, yeah, it's fair.
I wish we could have a different conversation in this. But again, that plays into the exact same thing as whereas like the GTA thing feels incredibly rushed, and it should have just been delayed forever until until it should be just delayed until it's ready, and as is the case with
Whatever
literally any
needs to
game.
be delayed. It's
Yeah.
interesting that like this is from Final Fantasy 14 was delayed. The expansion for Endwalker was delayed by 2 weeks. And I normally when games are delayed, some people are you get the traditional like delayed because it's shit, or the Miyamoto line of when you delay a game, it's bad, it's good. If you release a shit game, it's shit forever, whatever. But what was interesting about the delay for Endwalker is that they made a stream specifically for the announcement of the delay, and the main producer of the game was like genuinely very upset that he delayed this game. Like he was like, "I'm so sorry, I have to delay the game because I think we need 2 more weeks to iron out all of the stuff, to make it a better game, to make it a good like as good as it could possibly be." And like was in tears.
Couple of months.
It was 2 weeks, I think, that they delayed it recently.
Oh.
But he was in tears about it. It was like actually crying on stream, like, "I'm sorry, it's my fault. Like I want this game to be as good as it can possibly be. I know people have booked like weeks off work to play this game, and now like they have to cancel those weeks off work or whatever." I just found that very interesting that his response to delaying his own game is to sort of break down and apologize, when mostly it's kind of no big deal, right?
Quite large, right? I mean, that's my opinion. But again, I understand. Again, but it's one of those things where like I don't think the wider gaming public, if you want to word it that way, think it's no big deal.
Sure.
I think the wider gaming public are incredibly. I think us three maybe don't have that perspective because
We're not the wider gaming
think,
public, essentially.
and we're thinking about the intricacies of game development and like when people are going to put out what games and like what it actually takes to develop a game and whatnot. Whereas like I think the second you maybe go outside of our specific bubble, you start to see that conversation more and more.
Well, do you think that the developer of Endwalker needed to apologize? Like, do you think that's a thing that should have happened? Do you think he should be this upset about delaying his own game, or being so apologetic about it?
I don't. But no, but I
Does
don't
it
want to
need to
judge the
happen?
individual on it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
in the same way that I probably look. Let's be real. Like I apologize for stuff I don't need to apologize for 24/7.
True.
That's like one of my key personality traits. So like, I should probably sit here and say anything. But at the same time, no. Of course, he didn't need to apologize. Like it's.
But do you think
It
people think
really.
he needs to? Like, I guess my question is like, do you think that people looking at that go, okay, he needs to apologize because I've lost time off work or whatever, or like, or because I want this game now instead of in 2 weeks?
Don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
The time off work one's the annoying one, right? That's the thing where you're like, ugh. But like, I don't think you have to apologize because I think in my head that's like a personal choice. But I think like that's getting into the weeds of it a bit. But like, I think in my head that's just like a personal choice. Like, you've still got a day off. It's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? You can still
True.
relax.
Well,
But
you
I
can cancel
understand
it
that
as well.
you
Like, it's
can't,
not.
and you can also cancel it, and you can't specifically do what you're planning to do. And I know if there was a situation where like we've had this conversation, I don't pre-order games basically anymore. But if there was a situation where I had pre-ordered a game and I took a day off, like for example, when the new Fable game comes out, right? If the new Fable turns out to be as good as the other Fables, then maybe I would have pre-ordered it. And maybe if I was working a more regular job than I am freelance, which means I can just go, no, I'm having today off now. Like if it was that situation, I would probably book that day off. But it would be very frustrating if that was the case. But I don't know, especially now in the current climate, in when we're still a lot of people are still working from home, and I don't know what I don't pretend to know what the situation is in any Japanese game studio, let
Sure,
alone
sure.
Japan itself. Actually, if we're talking about it like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
but especially in this exact scenario, I don't know if I don't think an apology was necessary. But again, if I'm him, I'm probably apologizing because I apologize for everything. So it's not like I can sit here and say anything about it.
Mm. What do you think, Christina? Do you think it's right for a developer to apologize for the delay of their own game? Do you think it's appropriate for him to be in tears on stream because he's affected people's holidays? What's your opinion?
Well, the most proper thing he should have done is to like put out a statement on Twitter like every other game developer has done.
Mm.
Like CD Projekt Red when they delayed Cyberpunk 2077, or I forgot what other company, or when Warner Brothers Games delayed Hogwarts Legacy. Just put out a statement that reads, "Oh, we apologize, but we are delaying the game for until such time, just to make it better for our fans."
Mm. I kind of
Just say it as politely as possible, and don't not to like come onto the camera and just like bawl
sure.
bawl to the audience,
Mm.
like saying that, "God, I'm so sorry, we had to delay the game because of whatever technical difficulties they were coming across."
Mm. I kind of appreciate the and I think a lot of Final Fantasy 14 fans as well appreciate the transparency of the statement, appreciate the face to faceness of it all as well, like this straight up the developer, like the director of the game, coming on camera and going, "Hey, look, guys, I'm sorry, uh, because of reasons that I want to make this game as good as it possibly can be. I've had to delay it 2 weeks," and I personally I appreciate that. I mean, he's given us the correct. He's given us the reason. He's told us why. He's apologized for it. I think that's really cool of him. I think you're right. It's a bit far that he's like so genuinely upset that he's maybe affected other people. But maybe that's just because he's a really. I don't know. I don't know if he is that nice a guy or not. But like maybe he's just a really nice guy, and he's like. I think the game. It's weird because like you don't really talk about this with many other games in the industry, but I think there's a lot of passion for the game on that team, and I think there's a lot of passion for it being an MMO. There's a lot of passion for the community on that team as well. So I agree. It's a weird scenario to have a man crying on stream because he's had to delay the game by 2 weeks as well. It's not even a long time. It's 2 weeks. Like there are bigger games that have been delayed for much longer to literally no, so pretty much no statement at this point, like it is a bit much, I think. I don't know.
Right. I mean, transparency is important, but don't get like too emotional about it, especially on camera, on stream. That's not very professional.
Sure, I guess not. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So would you prefer they were more professional or more I guess it's for both of you. Would you prefer they were more professional or more personal with as a developer, like just in general? So like if it's your favorite game, for like if it's the Sonic team, would you prefer if they were very professional or emotional about it? If it's the new Fable game, Peter Molyneux comes up on stage and he's like, "I'm sorry, I know he's not he's not involved in whatever Fable game is happening, but he's like, Fable was delayed because I couldn't make the dog work or whatever," and then he like bows down to you. Would you be happy with that, or would you rather he was just like, "Fable's delayed, go away"?
Um, I mean, again,
Um,
I say it, but I also am aware that I'm different than most people's opinion on it. In that
Sure.
I'm fine, man. It's all right. I'll find something else to do.
Would you
It's not
feel
the end of the
bad
world.
if he was crying? Like the director of the game was crying?
Yeah, but I'd feel bad if anyone was crying. But I also wouldn't. But again, like I'm at a stage where I'm not. I wouldn't want. I don't need an explanation.
Sure, sure, sure.
Do you know what I mean? There's nothing like even the things I am the biggest fan of.
Mm.
Like, what's my favorite? Parks and Rec when it was on, it was my favorite TV show of all time. Right?
Mm.
Like when the final series of that was coming out, if they were like, we've got to delay it a month, I'd be like, yeah, all right.
Mm.
Like I see delaying as a good thing. I've never ever seen it as a bad thing. So I don't. Again, I'm aware I'm not someone who can talk about it too well because I'm completely fine with them delaying anything. Look, they could have come out and said to me like, let's say Fable, right, which is something I'm very excited for because I love Fable. Let's say the day before it came out, they were like, we've got to delay it for a year.
Mm.
Right now, don't get me wrong. I would be a bit concerned as to what that meant for the game because I'm
Sure.
like, okay,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sounds like similarly to what's happened with Halo this year. It's a
Mm.
bit like, okay, there's clearly problems here, but I would still be like, yeah, all right, fine. I'll
Mm.
find something else to do. It's not the end of the world. Like I'm not the, but again, I realize I'm in the minority with that. I think.
Sure, sure, sure. Christina, sorry, you were gonna say something?
Um, I forgot what I was gonna say
It's okay.
about.
Would you prefer if Sonic were more personal or professional? The Sonic team were more personal with their fans, I guess, or more professional in terms of
Hmm.
this interaction. How would you feel if the director of the next Sonic game came on cam and was like, "I'm so sorry, we have to delay the game by another month or whatever, and I'm so sorry. I know everyone's looking forward to the game," and he was genuinely upset.
I mean, I wouldn't I wouldn't want like the director to get too upset about it,
Mm.
too upset about what's going on, but just saying that just saying that they're gonna delay the game, I would understand that. I mean, sure, I would be a bit upset too because, I'm just excited. I'm just as excited to play the game as anybody else. But given their history with given their history with recent Sonic releases, I would I would understand perfectly why they would delay it, especially now during the pandemic.
Mm.
Like they keep in mind, like when before the pandemic started, they were gonna like um host the South by Southwest panel for Sonic and possibly new details about give details about a new Sonic game that they were working on, and that never actually happened, and that didn't really happen, and they waited until this May to even say something after revealing that they were going to release a remaster of Sonic Colors, which
Oh
I
yeah.
wrote a review about and a preview, mind you, and they waited till the end of the stream to tease a trailer for what is now Sonic Frontiers, and judging by the graphics, it looks phenomenal. I
Mm.
mean, had they released the teaser trailer last year, it would have come out like complete crap.
Mm. Yeah, that's fair. Um I think we would probably all agree that fans particularly would need more patience when it comes to these sort of things, I think. I
Yeah,
think patience is key.
especially when it comes to Sonic games.
Especially when it comes to Sonic games. That's fair. I mean, there's some games that are already built. Although we were talking about GTA before, like there are games that are already built and already on an established sort of system and stuff like that. So like Final Fantasy, we know that the game's not going to change that much because the game's already out. It's just an expansion to the original game. Like Grand Theft Auto Remastered, like we know what all three of those Grand Theft Auto games look like, right? Like we know what they play like. I know that there are differences to the way the games play now, but I don't know, it's weird. Like, do you think that? I guess we're all kind of on the same position. Like, delay as much as possible, right? But like, how do you get that across to your audience without them being genuinely pissed? Do you think that CD Projekt Red could have delayed Cyberpunk 2077 until it was ready?
They could have done that, and they could have delayed it until such a time they believe that the game is ready for release, because when it came out, it was a gigantic mess.
There's no argument that when Cyberpunk came out, for example, it was a mess. Like, it was a complete state. It was barely playable in some points, and it absolutely shouldn't have launched at that point. But do you think the audience would have allowed that time? Do you think financially they're even allowed that time? Like, I know that they publish their own stuff, but there are financial boundaries to delaying things as well, right? When is Cyberpunk's not even ready for release now? Like, it's not even.
I mean,
been
again,
fixed
but it depends on what you count as ready for release, right?
I'm sure.
Like, I think the financials is the interesting point to some extent, because obviously, if you're a large team, so we're not really talking on an independent level where it's one person, although actually you could make the argument it's even more affecting for a singular individual to make money than it is an entire organization. Absolutely. Right? But like, if you're a big organization, say like CD Projekt Red, who were making Cyberpunk, and there's probably hundreds of people at that studio, it obviously costs a hell of a lot, let alone by year, by month, by week, to have that many people working on something.
Yeah.
And so obviously there is a level where you have to go, okay, right, it has to come out at some point. But I think I don't know. I think it's a larger problem than, I mean, like, I think, like, for example, fans needing more patience, for example, I think exists. But at the same time, I feel like it's just the culture, the industry is designed for specific hype moments.
You are right with that. Yeah.
Like, everything from game development to the marketing to the press side of it to the fan side of it, everything is driven into these singular moments of just explosions, right? So like, whenever a thing comes out that everyone's waiting for and it goes hype, and then bang, it drops and then everything goes wild. And I think part of that is like, in order for any of that to change, that would need to change. That we would need to rework how everything works, and I don't think it's at all possible. Like, I think we're just stuck in it now. I think there's certain things we could do. Yeah, I think there's certain things we could do.
On the press side, I think there's a lot to fix.
I think there's certain things we could do everywhere. I think, for example, don't announce games early. You've got two options. You either don't announce games early, or you announce every game incredibly early, because at some point the expectations need to be set.
Yeah.
And I think you either have one of those two options. So for example, like Saints Row, for example, like announced 6 months before they're releasing, if that. I can't remember how long it's coming out at the beginning of next year. They announced it a couple of months back. Now again, that's going through a similar problem where they've released it and everyone's gone, look at the graphics, and now there's just going to be a whole kerfuffle about that. But like, there is, I think, an argument to be made that we should, in my opinion, I think you can go either way, but I do think we should announce games as late as possible. But I also think, like I say, there's so many stages at this that means everything is designed for it, that I think would need to change in the build up.
I spend a lot of time comparing game press to other types of press, so like music and film specifically. Like, it's because it's something that I have been into or aware of, maybe more than other people are. I think a lot of, I'm not sure, I can't really speak for everyone and say games press are very self-integrated, or you know, they're very much like, okay, we talk about game press and we think about game press. But I compare it to those two a lot because I feel like it's valid comparison. And other than with the Marvel, because we just had Disney Plus Day or whatever, when Disney have announced like 60 things that they're going to put out on. Other than that, like we don't get films just announced and then they're in like, not many anyway. You don't get albums just announced like 3 years ahead of time and go, hey, look. I know there's a different development cycle specifically with music than there is video games, but it is crazy how different the press side of these things react. Like you don't get, I don't feel like you get that kind of, and as you say, the hype cycle. I guess it's a hype cycle of like, oh hey, game's announced. Like you never like, let's say about the Ed Sheeran's album just came out, or Adele's album's out next week, for Christ's sakes. You never get like, oh, Ed Sheeran announces an album, let's hype this Ed Sheeran album up for like 12 months because it's coming out in 12 months. Oh no, Ed Sheeran's gone and had a bath. That's exciting. And then the Ed Sheeran album drops.
To be fair, that is exciting.
Sure. And then the Ed Sheeran album drops, and then everyone's gone mental to cover it like as much as possible. Ed Sheeran's on the front page of every newspaper in the country or whatever. Like, it just doesn't happen that way.
It really does not happen that way.
I don't know, and I feel like that's a place for press to maybe learn. I think I can only speak of it from a press side because I think there's nothing we can do about the corporate side. There's nothing we can do about the development side of video games. But there's a lot. There are things we can do about the video game press side of things because we're in it. And so I feel like, okay, what do we work towards to make it a less toxic place for people? Because let's be fair, video games is a community, and I know that other places are and can be just as toxic. I'm sure there are thousands of incredibly toxic Ed Sheeran fans out there. But like, what can we do to make gaming less toxic? What can we do to make gaming less like hype focused and more interested in other things? I talk about lots of different stuff in general, like politics or whatever as well, but which is another step that video games need to maybe think about. But I don't know, what do we, Cristina, what do you think Games Press needs to do to make it a bit more, because you're more active in Games Press than in general than we are, I think. What do you think Games Press needs to do to sort of change? Do you think there needs to be change to Games Press, or what?
I think there needs to be like more accountability when it comes to, journalists receiving like a lot of toxicity from their readers.
I mean, that happens a lot. I imagine we're very different because, one, we don't typically write things. I mean, I have had some sort of hate, but never on a massive scale through writing. But I imagine it's very different being a woman, being neurodivergent, being in video games. All of these things are together. Is your experience particularly bad? I know I follow a lot of people on Twitter who have particularly horrendous experiences of the whole game media thing.
Well, technically speaking, I have not received a single shred of toxicity from anyone who has read my work. I think because the things I write are, I don't know if controversy is a factor in that. Because, I've seen like some of my colleagues receive a boatload of misogynistic comments. Like misogynistic, sexist comments, and even like they're very open about sharing their experience with that, like with screenshots of like people sliding into their DMs and saying that shit. And it just kind of makes me cry inside.
Sure. Yeah.
because as a feminist, I just want to like knock some sense into those people who come after my fellow journalists, like women, like fellow female journalists, trans or otherwise, like, and they trans, non-binary, what have you, and I just want to, tell them, hey, that is what you're telling them is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree. I see a lot of it on Twitter specifically. Maybe Twitter's. I don't think it's that Twitter's the wrong place. I think it's just the internet's the wrong place. Like I don't think it's specifically Twitter. Like I think it happens everywhere. I know it happens in like comments and stuff. I remember seeing there are a few people I follow on Twitter.
It happens on Facebook too.
I actually see some Facebook comments as well. Yeah, from a few people. I've seen people get like pictures sent to them, inappropriate pictures sent to them, and stuff like that as well. And I'm just like, well, why? I don't understand. Like, do you think it's opinion articles? Like, do you write a lot of opinion articles, or is it mostly news that you get through?
I think it's mostly like opinion articles that rile readers up more than news articles.
Because I don't think it happens often on news, maybe, unless
No,
it's
it
news
doesn't.
that's specifically focused on something that people disagree with. Like I'm thinking of like maybe a Kotaku article that's talking about women in games doing something, and then there'll be people hating that in the comments. But I don't think it's not like I'm writing news like there's a new game's happening and people go, how dare you, woman. It's, I don't know, but do you think it's just because they disagree with the opinion, or do you think it's because they're women?
I mean, when there are more female gamers, there are just as many female gamers as there are male gamers, but male gamers they just throw out a lot of toxicity at women because they kind of think that gaming is a men's only space and they want to keep it that way, but that's not how it should be. I mean, I've played video games since I was a kid, and I mean, I may not have touched Halo or Battlefield or ¿cómo se llama? Or even Call of Duty, but I am still a gamer nonetheless.
Exactly. I've seen the I think it was a YouTube comment I've seen going around of a guy in some YouTube comments going, Animal Crossing and Pokemon aren't real video games. I'm like, what do you mean? Animal Crossing is one of the most hardcore video games I've ever seen. What do you mean? People are on that game for hours at a time. Like what I mean, I don't know. I think we're probably the wrong people to really invite some sort of toxic male gamer on the podcast so we can pick a brain a little bit and just go, well, hey, what do you mean by Animal Crossing isn't a video game? But what do you think? What do you think they would say a hardcore game is? What is?
Got guns in it, therefore not hardcore in it.
It's not got guns in it.
Yeah, anything that has to do with guns and violence and gore, that is like their definition of a hardcore game.
And if it's got a story in it, it's not hardcore. If it's got nice bits in it, it's not hardcore enough. Screw Animal Crossing. It's got trees. What do you mean?
I think it's the same argument that we used to hear about Farmville and stuff like that back in the day.
The Facebook game.
It's literally the exact same argument, and like it's just as dumb now as it was back then. It's never not been dumb, and it will continue to be dumb. It's just for some reason people feel like it's something they need to scream from the rooftops, despite the fact that, like you say, for example, with Farmville back in the day, it's like, yo,
Man, people putting hours in that shit.
your mum who's playing Farmville is playing it probably more or just as much as you're playing Call of Duty, bro. And it's the same argument now. You can talk about people playing Animal Crossing just as much as anyone's playing
You're damn right.
whatever dumb game they're
The new Call of Duty
I mean,
that's just come out. I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, whatever it is. You know what I mean? I think it's just it's such a ridiculous thing to lob at people. And it's not based in reality. Again, it's just that this is my space and no one else can beat it. It's just selfish nonsense, and it makes and what's really insane is like, I mean, and I know again I'm speaking for myself here as opposed to anyone else, but what's really insane is that when I like something, I would like to share it with other people. I don't want to just keep it and hoard it for myself. Like, don't get me wrong. I know my girlfriend's never going to be that into wrestling, but like,
Sure.
if I can be like, hey, look at this cool wrestling thing, and she enjoyed it, I would be like, oh, isn't that amazing? As opposed to being like, no, you can't look at it. It's mine.
It is exactly like, so whenever I actually did it earlier, I was there's a guy I follow on Twitter who's like doing top 5 albums posts or whatever, and I put my top 5 albums in of 2004, and I was scrolling down to see things, and I saw people who liked a band that I liked, and I was like, oh shit, you put the band, that's amazing, that's cool. You know, it's the same as if I see someone on Twitter talking about Final Fantasy, I'll probably follow them because I would like to know more people who are into the sort of things that I'm into. I don't understand why, like, I can't see, I'm not going to see a girl playing Final Fantasy and go, no, you're not manly enough to play this game. You know?
It's the exact same nonsense arguments. Like, even though it isn't like, don't get me wrong, it's not one for one. It's coming from that same place of like immature, just stupidity. You know, like what?
Patriarchal stupidity.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. And would you? Okay, you can go and enjoy your thing by yourself. Then go be a lonely weirdo by yourself. The rest of us can get on with it and talk about the things we like and hang out and everything else. You can go and just be by yourself if you really want to. I'll never understand it. I'll never ever be able to get into the mindset of someone who thinks that way, because it's just gatekeeping nonsense. And it's the same thing. I see it so often in the football community.
Oh yeah, football's bad as well.
With people who are like, people who go on about the idea like, oh, you can't, like, oh, you're American, you can't support West Ham. And it's like, what are you talking about? What kind of nonsense is this? Like, if you really want to boil it down, like, to like the bare bones of like the situation, and you say, okay, you support someone who's not a quote unquote real gamer or a real West Ham fan or whatever nonsense you want to speak. Yo, if you're giving more money to support or supporting that thing, guess what? The thing you like is more likely to continue existing.
Yeah.
Why?
Do you get, I know you have some female friends who are West Ham supporters. Do they get a lot of hate for being female and liking West
Ham? Depends. Yes, online.
Online.
In person, a lot less.
I've noticed that also in person's slightly different as well. You know,
but then again, I get crap for being West Ham fan just because I'm from North London and not from East London. But it's that really like insular attitude. If you are not a very specific thing, you cannot be something. You know, or you're playing, and it's the same thing. You're from North London, that means you can't support West Ham. You're a girl, that means you can't be a real football fan. Oh, you play Animal Crossing, that's not a real game. It's that real specific, insular, gatekeeping nonsense. And it's like all you're doing is not only making everyone else's lives worse, but you're also making your own life worse. It's beyond stupidity.
I agree. Okay. So I think that's about all that we've got time for now. I'm going to say a massive thank you to our guest, Cristina Alexander. I hope you had a nice time. What are you doing? Tell the people what it is that you do on a what is it? What do you do?
Me?
Yes. What do you do? Tell the world what it is you do.
Okay, so as I said before, I am writing for the Gamer, Gamepur, and Giant Freaking Robot. Although on the latter site, I write mostly about, movies and TV shows.
Mm.
Like, but everywhere else, I just write about gaming still.
Mm. Quick, sort of alternate here. Squid Game, yay or nay?
Um, I'm I'm a bit neutral because I
Cool.
could not get through like the entire first episode of it. I
There
mean,
we
I'm
go.
aware of how popular it is
Mm.
because of the economic theme weaved into it. But
Not for
as
you.
far as far as like the entire series,
Mm.
well, I'm gonna have to like watch the whole thing before I could say yay or nay.
Fair play. Charlie, what is it that you are? Oh, sorry. Christina, where can they find you? Where can they find you on other places?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Sonic Princess 15.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Charlie, what are you?
An idiot. Next question, Your Honor. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at atoplad. I don't know what I've got coming up. Stuff. It exists. At some point, I'll probably post about. Oh no, I was just published as a poet.
Oh, you're a published poet now.
I'm officially a published poet now. That's the thing that happened.
Shit.
If you go on my Twitter feed at
Wonderful.
atoplad, I was included in a anthology about Lord of the Rings recently. Is one of the many poems I've done and one of the stupid things I've done in my life recently.
Is this the one where you've not watched Lord? Is that the poem you've not seen the Lord of the Rings?
yeah, that one. Don't spoil it. But yeah, so if you're that way inclined into look, if you're into poetry in general, then I would say the rest of the anthology is actually worth reading. But I would say specifically if you're into Lord of the Rings and whatnot, if you go on my Twitter feed at atoplad, I'm now a published poet officially, and I'm going to rinse that for all it's worth.
Change your Twitter bio. Published poet.
I already have.
Oh, beautiful. There we go.
I already have. I did it literally the second they posted the link to go and buy the anthology. I was like, right, there we go, published poet. So that's the thing. But yeah, anything else I do will be on my Twitter at atoplad. There may be other poetry stuff happening in the future. Watch this space, but yeah, in terms of other stuff, yeah, you'll find it all there.
Cool. You can find me at Hurd and Noise on Twitter, Facebook, other places, Instagram. I think I'm also on there. You also find me on Twitch at Rabbits Ahoy and YouTube. And if you would like to see more from Sometimes Video Games, you can always follow us on Twitch, on Twitter, Facebook, Insta, whatever. And also YouTube. Please give a good look at our YouTube channel. We've been working pretty hard to make that as good as possible. Last video that we had up was a banger, in my opinion. The food and drink of video games. I make something called the Brexit. Go check it out. It's a yeah. You can find us next tomorrow if you're watching this on Saturday, watching this live, or today if you're watching this on the day it goes live on YouTube. Sunday at 8:30 p.m. UK time. We're going to be playing some GeoGuessr on Twitch. That's Twitch TV/Sometimes Video Games. So go come and hang out with us there. You can play along with us as well if you'd really enjoy that. But yeah, thank you very much everyone who came by. Thank you everyone who was listening, and thank you very much Christina for joining us today. It's been great having you again.
Welcome, and I hope to come back very soon.
Wonderful. We'd love to have you as much as you'd like to. So yeah, thank you very much everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.